You're listening to the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Dibbly Dobbly Podcast. And on today's episode, we're previewing the third ODI between Australia and Pakistan. Another dominant display by Pakistan to claim their first ODI series win in Australia since 2002. Just like they did in Adelaide, they repeated it in Perth to crush Australia and secure a series win. They batted well, they bowled well, and they showed some good energy in the field, and they were certainly up for this task to win this ODI series against Australia, which is a fantastic achievement, and for Pakistan, something to be proud of after what has been a very challenging 2024 for Pakistan cricket in general. But to win this ODI series has certainly salvaged something from a challenging year. On the other hand, once again, Australia were poor again. Just like in Adelaide, their batting was not really up to the mark. It struggled in Adelaide and it struggled here in Perth with a new look batting lineup. Obviously, no Smith and Labuschagne. Obviously, Marsh and Head missing as well. A new batting lineup, a new captain and Josh Inglis taking over for this game in the absence of PAK Cummins. Pretty much not the first game that Josh Inglis would have hoped in his captaincy career. Very tough day at the office. But once again, Australia were outplayed by Pakistan as they were in Adelaide. As the case here in Perth, the batting was poor and nothing really to smile about, really. And that's why they've lost this series 2-1. So they will be very disappointed by that result and certainly didn't play at their best. So there's plenty to talk about in terms of how this third ODI went down between Australia and Pakistan, what went well, what went wrong, a lot of questions and a lot of answers for Australia to ask themselves. Pakistan jubilant, very happy with this series win. And they should be, because they played very well across the two games in Adelaide and Perth. The first game in Melbourne, not so much. So plenty to discuss, plenty to talk about today. So without further ado, let's get into it. Let's have a look at the match summary and how this third ODI between Australia and Pakistan went down. Well, just like in Adelaide, Australia batted first here in Perth and made 140 all out in 31.5 overs, which was a disappointing score and batting display. Sean Abbott top scored with 30, and Shaheen Shah Afridi and Naseem Shah led the way with Pakistan with the ball, taking 3 wickets each. Pakistan, they only needed 141 runs to win. They chased them down easily, finishing on 2 for 143. Syama Urub top scoring with 42, and Lance Morris took the 2 wickets for Australia in their bowling effort. Pakistan won by 8 wickets, and Haris Rauf was named player of the match. What were the key moments and key factors from the third ODI between Australia and Pakistan? Well, Pakistan bowling Australia out for 140 was the key moment. Obviously, bowling Australia out for another low score, just like they did in Adelaide. When you bowl an opposition out for under 200, you're pretty much on the way to winning the game. So that was a key for Pakistan to win the toss, bowl first, like they did in Adelaide, put Australia under pressure with this new batting lineup that Australia had for this last game of the series. And they were able to bowl them out for 140, which went a long way in Pakistan winning this game. And also the opening partnership between Urub and Shafiq, just like we saw in Adelaide in that game, they did the same thing in this game here, adding 84 for the first wicket. And that pretty much set up the run chase for Pakistan to chase down 140, just like they did in Adelaide. Very similar, the games in Perth and Adelaide in the way that they panned out. So that opening partnership once again proved to be key for Pakistan in chasing a very low, below par score that Australia set. And those were the key moments and key factors from this third ODI between Australia and Pakistan at the Perth Stadium. Let's talk about how both Australia and Pakistan performed in this third ODI at the Perth Stadium. And we'll start with the home team. As always, Australia. Let's talk about Australia and their batters and bowlers and how they performed in this third game of the series. We'll start with the batting side of things, shall we? Just like in Adelaide and in Melbourne, Australia's batting was poor again here in Perth. Bowled out for 140 in 31.5 overs is an indication of how Australia batted, not only in this game, but also in the game in Adelaide and also the game in Melbourne where they scraped over the line. Their batting hasn't been at their best in this series. Yet again, we saw a batting collapse. We saw wickets lost in clumps, wickets lost at regular intervals, poor shot selection by a few of the batters, a lack of partnerships. No one made a significant score of note. The top order failed, the middle order struggled, and the only ones that didn't struggle were the bowlers. Sean Abbott, Adam Zampa, Spencer Johnson looked pretty comfortable and showed the top order and middle order how to bat on this surface here in Perth. So just disappointing. It was exactly the same in Adelaide, and it happened again here in Perth. Now, obviously, Australia had a new look batting lineup for this last game of the series. Obviously, Smith and Labuschagne were taken out. Travis Head and Mitchell Marsh didn't even play in the series because they were on parental leave. So Australia had a new look batting order. Obviously, Cooper Connolly came in for his first game of the series. Same with Marcus Stoinis. Sean Abbott returned. Josh Inglis is captain. Aaron Hardy was promoted up to number 3. And it was a new look batting order for Australia. And obviously the 11 that they put out is their second string 11, giving opportunities to younger players going forward into the future. And the batting was pretty poor. As we mentioned, quite a few errors with shot selection and just lacking the basics, really. And the problem that Australia's had throughout the whole entire series was the inability to build innings and to go through the gears and to, take a bit of time at the crease. And in the modern day game of cricket, with T20 cricket in the game now, batters have lost that art and skill of batting for long periods of time and building innings and constructing innings. And that's certainly the case that Australia had in this last game of the series and also across the other 2 games in Melbourne and Adelaide as well. But as I said, they were missing a few players in the batting lineup. No Smith, no Labuschagne. Obviously, Marsh and Head didn't play in the series at all. So just real disappointment, really. The opening partnership was disappointing again. Matt Short, Fraser McGurk, trying to battle it out for a spot alongside Travis Head ahead of that Champions Trophy next year. Both of them have had a really poor series between them. Aaron Hardy, again, was disappointing. Cooper Connolly had a broken hand after playing a pull shot, which he didn't quite connect, and the ball hit him flush on the glove, and he had a broken hand, had to retire hurt. Marcus Stoinis was disappointing. Glenn Maxwell, disappointing again. So the batting was not quite up to scratch. And some very poor shots. We talk about poor shot selection. And some just horrible dismissals and horrible shots that were played. Fraser McGurk, caught behind, caught on the crease, no foot movement whatsoever. Aaron Hardy, a bit of indecision. He went to play and he went to leave, and the ball hit the bottom part of the bat and went straight into the slip cordon, and he was out. That was a poor decision made there. Josh Inglis, usually good playing the pull shot, but on this occasion, top-edged one after playing a pull shot and got caught. Matt Short, a pull shot, hit it straight to the fielder at deep square leg. Try to take on the big square boundaries in Perth. If you're going to hit it big on those big square boundaries in Perth, you've got to play a pull shot. You've got to middle it. You've got to get it out of the middle of the bat. You've got to hit it hard, either along the ground or up in the air. And if you go aerial, you've got to hit it well. You've got to hit it over the fielder. Matt Short didn't do that. It was a half-hearted pull shot, really. Just helped it on its way. That was a poor dismissal. Glenn Maxwell, that was a horrible dismissal. Trying to work the ball to the leg side, got a leading edge, got squared up, and got caught at backward point. Off Harris Ralph, and he was dismissed by Harris Ralph for the 3rd time in the series. So some examples of poor shot selection, poor decision-making by the Australian batters, as we've seen across the series the same thing happened here in Perth, and that's the disappointing thing for the Australian batters. The highest partnership was 30, and that was Sean Abbott and Adam Zampa for the 8th wicket. And I did mention before that the bowlers, Abbott, Zampa and Johnson, they look pretty comfortable. They scored some runs, and the rest of the batting order for Australia struggled. So they showed the rest of the batters how to bat. But Australia, if they're honest with themselves, not quite at their best in the series with the batting department. Obviously, the first 2 games, they had Smith and Labuschagne, obviously no Head and no Marsh, obviously. But in the last game, they didn't have those players. It was a new look batting lineup. I think we've got to take that into consideration, that Australia had a different team. They had a second string 11 for this game, obviously. Obviously, Matt Short, Fraser McGurk, Hardy, Connolly, making their way in international cricket. So there are a few things to take into consideration. Obviously, you have players who are new to international cricket, trying to learn their craft, and it's a very tough gig. So they'll definitely learn a lot from this last game. They'll be disappointed. Hopefully, they can turn it around and get back to batting normally in one-day cricket. And Australia talk about being aggressive, but you can be aggressive, but balance that with smart batting, making good decisions, playing the right shots to the right balls, respecting the bowlers, just all the basic stuff. And I think Australia need to go back to the basics when it comes to batting, and especially building an innings in one-day cricket, which, as I mentioned before, has been lost in the modern game because of the rise of T20 cricket. And, Australia need to go back to that, go back to the basics. They don't fail the basics. The basics are there for a reason. If you stick to the basics, you can have success. So just like in Adelaide, their batting fell away again here in Perth, and that was to be expected. I don't think anyone was surprised with the way that Australia batted in this last game. Obviously, new look batting lineup. You have players in different positions that I haven't been accustomed to in international cricket up to date. And obviously, the Pakistan bowlers made it difficult for the Australian batters. So plenty of work for Australia to do going into the Champions Trophy about their batting. They need to sort that out as soon as possible. But their batting, pretty poor, it has to be said. The bowling, let's talk about the bowlers and their performance quickly. Obviously, defending 140 was always going to be difficult. Needed early wickets, needed to bowl Pakistan out. That didn't happen. Lance Morris was pretty good. He was pretty much the pick of the Australian bowlers. Took 2 for 24 from his 6 overs. Good to see Lance back. He's had his battles with injury. Good to see him back. He got 2 wickets in an over. He got rid of Shafiq for 37, caught and bowled, which was a pretty good caught and bowl. And then Arub for 42. He got him out bowled for the 2 wickets there for Lance Morris. All the other bowlers struggled and went for runs. And Lance Morris was the only one who were able to pick up a couple of wickets. Once again, the fielding was poor again from Australia. We saw a drop catch, a couple of drop catches. Adam Zampa dropped Abdullah Shafiq on 28, and then Lance Morris dropped Siam Arub on 15. And that's been the problem for Australia of late. Their fielding's pretty much been poor across this 3-game series. We saw in Adelaide an overthrow that went for 4. Adam Zampa dropped a catch in that game as well. The first game in Melbourne, they had some misfields and were pretty poor. So that's something that Australia need to tighten up going forward. Obviously, no Stark and Cummins and Hazelwood in this game in terms of the bowling attack. But a good to see, Spencer Johnson and Lance Morris given a go. Both of them bowl pretty well. They bowl good pace and they look promising. So good to see them, get a go and get that opportunity to play for Australia. I suppose that's a positive. But besides from that, really defending 140 was always going to be difficult with the ball for Australia. When you get bowled out for under 200, which they did in this game, the same in Adelaide, when you come out to bowl, it is demoralising. And, you are behind in the game and there's no hope of you winning the game if you pulled something off miraculously, which could have happened, but it didn't happen for Australia, and that's why they've lost this series 2-1. So to finish up about Australia, disappointing batting performance again. Really let them down across the whole series. They'll be very disappointed, Australia, with the way they've gone about things with the bat in this series. If they batted a bit better, who knows? It could have been a different result. But they'll be disappointed. Yet again, another poor batting display. They'll need to pretty much pick themselves up pretty quickly, move on from this, learn from it, and hopefully implement changes going forward, heading into that Champions Trophy early next year. Let's talk about Pakistan and their performance in this third ODI, in this ODI series against Australia. And let's talk about their batting and bowling performance. And we'll start with the batting first of all. And just like in Game 2 in Adelaide, the batting made light work of a very below par score, chasing 140 in this last game of the series. Pretty much cruised to the target, finishing on 2 for 143 from 26.5 overs. Once again, just like in Adelaide, the opening partnership, Arub and Shafiq, just like they did in Adelaide, they did the same thing in this last game of the series here in Perth. Added 84 for the opening partnership, set up the run chase for Pakistan. And then once they got out, Babar Azam and Rizwan took over and added 58 unbeaten for the third wicket and finished off the job. And Pakistan, their batting in the last two games have been good. Obviously, chasing low targets and scores help. But they've certainly improved their batting from the first game in Melbourne, where they got bowled out for just over 200. But in the games in Adelaide and in Perth, the batting was improved. And it was a much better performance with the bat across those two games. So I think Pakistan will be delighted with the way that they batted again. Obviously, when you're chasing a low target, as I mentioned before, you can take your time as a batting unit just to get to the target with ease. And that's what they did in this game in Perth, and that's what they did in Adelaide. And I think they'll be also encouraged, Pakistan, to see the opening partnership of Arub and Shafiq finally, contributing and finally getting some good partnerships together. I think that's a good sign for them. Also, Babar Azam returning to some sort of form. And obviously, Mohammad Rizwan scoring some runs as captain. He's had a pretty good series as captain, Rizwan, across the three games. So, Pakistan's batting, pretty much good cricket shots. They built partnerships. They took their time. They didn't lose wickets in clumps. They didn't have a batting collapse like Australia did. They took their time. They played good cricket shots and thoroughly deserved their success in this series to win their first ODI series in Australia since 2002. So the batting for Pakistan, just like it was in Adelaide, pretty good performance. The bowling performance was pretty good again. Bowling Australia out for 140. Again, was another good performance. All the bowlers contributed. A carbon copy of what they did in Adelaide. Afridi, Ralph, Shah, Hassanein, they all contributed well. And they were able to pick up wickets here and there and really put Australia under pressure in their batting innings in this last game, as they did in Adelaide. And obviously, for Pakistan, some positives to see, Shaheen Shah Afridi and Naseem Shah taking wickets and looking pretty threatening. That will do their confidence the world of good, obviously, given that they were dropped from the test side in that test series against England recently, along with Babar Azam as well. So good to see them taking wickets. Harris Ralph has been exceptional in the series, bowling good pace and really quickening up the Australian batters. And also Mohammad Hassanein as well, contributing here and there with some wickets, and also bowling with good pace as well. And their fielding was good, Pakistan. They just about caught everything. Their ground fielding was good. And, really good signs for Pakistan in terms of how this, new one-day team is developing. And no doubt going forward, and especially going into that Champions Trophy early next year, they'll be hoping that these core group of players can start building towards that and get some confidence. And no doubt this series win in Australia would definitely help them on that journey. To finish up about Pakistan and their performance, once again, the batting was pretty good, pretty much a straightforward task in terms of chasing Australia's 140 down. The batting pretty much doing the basics well, took their time, didn't rush, played good cricket shots. The bowling were able to bowl good lines and lengths and really challenge the Australian batters and make them feel uncomfortable on what was a pretty good surface in Perth in terms of pace and carry. And for Pakistan, just the better team, really, you have to say. The better team won on the day, and that was Pakistan. They thoroughly deserved their series win, and they've outplayed Australia in this series. That's pretty much it, really. They performed better than Australia in all three departments, and that's why they were able to win this series 2-1. They should have won the series 3-0, but a 2-1 series win is a pretty good performance by this Pakistan team. Some final thoughts to end our review of the third ODI between Australia and Pakistan. Once again, it was another dominant display from Pakistan and deserved their series win. They could have won 3-0. If they played better in Melbourne, it could have been a 3-0 series win. But a 2-1 series win in the end is a pretty good result. Hopefully, Pakistan can carry on this momentum going forward beyond this tour of Australia, but also into the T20 series, which will follow this ODI series. Hopefully, they can win that and hopefully have a great tour of Australia, winning both the ODIs and the T20 series. But hopefully for Pakistan, they can carry on this momentum going forward. They've started something. Hopefully they can build on it, and that's the important thing. Once again, another poor performance from Australia. Just like in Adelaide, their batting was below par. Tough first game for new captain Josh Inglis, and a lot of questions, a lot of soul searching for Australia to do going forward beyond this ODI series as we approach a Champions Trophy next year. A lot of questions for the Australian team to answer going into that series, going into that tournament, I should say, from this ODI series against Pakistan. Their batting was poor. The bowlers tried their best, but obviously when the batting failed, making low scores, batting first, it was always going to be difficult for the bowlers to try and do something special. A lot of questions, a lot of areas for Australia to work on going forward. And, let's be honest, Pakistan completely outplayed Australia in games 2 and 3 and deserved their series victory for the first time in Australia for an ODI series since 2002. Australia will be disappointed with their performances across the 3 games. Pakistan will be delighted with the way that they played in the last 2 games. And this ODI series has been a series that has been a bit of a contrast between the 2 teams. Obviously, the first game, both teams were a bit rusty with the bat and maybe a little bit with the ball. But in the next 2 games, it was pretty much a one-sided contest, and Pakistan just bossed games 2 and 3, and Australia batted poorly and weren't able to win this series, and that's why they lost 2-1. So I think both teams will take a lot out of this last game, and especially across this ODI series as well. Thanks, everyone, for listening to our third ODI review between Australia and Pakistan. If you're watching or listening to this episode of the podcast on our YouTube channel, let us know your thoughts on this third ODI between Australia and Pakistan in the comments. We would love to hear what you have to say. Thanks for watching and listening. Until next time, keep safe and bye for now.